Hey soldiers, look, unless you are on your game, you are ripe for the picking. We've got a major corporate chieftain, big time investor, power broker who was taken in by one of these, corporate schemers like Sam Bankman Fried. Listen, we'll get to that in a minute. It's a cautionary tale. Elizabeth Holmes, the former CEO of Theranos, she was sentenced yesterday to 11 years in federal prison. So Sam Bankman Fried, of course, the former CEO of FTX, he's got to be looking at this and thinking to himself, this is what my life might end up looking like in the not too distant future. We will see. But look, this woman, Elizabeth Holmes, she lost it all. And this is a cautionary tale on so many levels. First of all, it's easy to just do the right thing. You might live, high on the hog for, a period of time. But if you're doing it the wrong way, it's all going to catch up with you. And then in the long term, it's just going to mess you up. Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of Theranos, who was convicted of defrauding investors, was sentenced to more than 11 years in prison, capping the extraordinary downfall of a one-time Silicon Valley wunderkind who promised to revolutionize blood testing. Look, the idea that this woman had, I'm not going to go into it. This is not a biology channel, but it was a great idea. But they making it work, it was so revolutionary that making it work was another thing. And, that's where the fraud came in. So she's off to prison and she's pregnant, okay, believe it or not. So I think she's not going immediately. They're going to give her a chance to have her baby so that her baby will not be born in prison. After all, this child that didn't defraud anyone, right? So I agree with that. Now, can you believe that what happened in the preceding weeks with Sam Bankman Fried, some are actually saying that he's too well connected to serve time. And you know what? I don't totally disagree with that. In this world today, you never know. But here's the thing that I think, here's one reason I believe that will not occur. I don't believe his connections will get him out of this. Number one, he's no longer of any use to the Democrat Party. He was a major donor. He's not in a position to do that any longer, okay? The election is over. And there are going to be some politicians that are really pissed off at him because they're going to be under pressure to return donations that he made. Once the forensics of this is all, settled out, there are going to be people saying, hey, you can't keep those ill-gotten gains for your campaign. So there are going to be a lot of very powerful people in American politics that are pissed off with him. Also, he was, doing something with Ukrainian donations. He's really playing with a lot of fire here. So I think at the end of the day, he's quite disposable. He's a very young man. It's not like he sat around and collected secrets, J. Edgar Hoover style. He doesn't have anything on anybody. You can tell this guy was interested in his hormones and not too interested in his business based on the forensics that they've done so far, saying that there was barely any bookkeeping. They had unsecured email addresses for billions of dollars. So this thing, the CEO of the hedge fund, she was a big-time Harry Potter fan. Nothing wrong with Harry Potter, I suppose. But when you're an adult and you're coming to a job interview dressed as a Harry Potter character, that's a little suspect, okay? So this shows you the kind of, vibe that was going on at that company. And I think that he's going to ultimately pay for that with some time in prison. And look, these sentences, they vary. All right, so with Theranos, they're saying that the investors lost approximately $121 million or so. Compare that to Bernie Madoff, $65 billion. Bernie Madoff died in prison. This young lady has received 11 years in prison. So far, they're saying FTX is in the neighborhood of a $32 billion loss, which could land old Sam Bankman Fried in the pokey for a substantial portion of his life. And again, he's a young man. He's looking to being a very old man by the time he gets out. Now, look, there's a major investor, major business power broker who freely admits that he was suckered by this young lady at Theranos, okay, Elizabeth Holmes. So it's kind of a cautionary tale saying that no one's really above this, right? Now, I know that we had the video about Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary. And listen, O'Leary has a reputation of, I was advised of this and I looked it up, and he's got a reputation of telling people that, listen, don't put all your eggs in one basket, okay? Take 10% and allocate that, and, you know, if that goes south, then, you know, you haven't lost everything. So to the extent people actually listened to Kevin O'Leary's advice there, then the blow on FTX would have been cushioned. So I know I've been hard on the guy, okay? And part of the reason for that is because, you know, these champions of it may have given people the wrong impression. But at the end of the day, again, as I always preach, you got to do your own due diligence. Kevin O'Leary, Tom Brady, these guys are ultimately not responsible for the decisions that you make, okay? I know that's in vogue in America, is to blame it on someone else. But if I lose money, at the end of the day, it is on me, okay? Now, I know there's suitcases flying around and, you know, money may be recovered in some way, shape, or form. But listen, suing somebody is not inexpensive. Even if your attorney doesn't charge you anything up front and feels as though the case is so good that they'll win, he or she's still going to take a percentage of that, okay? So if you're able to recover what you lost, and then the attorney takes 33% of that, you've still not come out on top. So look, let's talk about Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch is the guy that is the executive chairman of News Corp. You might know them by the brands that they have. He founded this company that now owns the Wall Street Journal, Fox News, other entities as well. And this is what he says. Of course it was fraud, but I only have myself to blame for not asking a lot more questions. One of a bunch of old men taken in by a seemingly great young woman. Total embarrassment, unquote. This is what he said, okay? He's saying, look, I'm an old guy, and I love this statement because it's so candid, and it's really, you know, the lawyer didn't write it, and it has so much in it to help people. He's saying, look, I'm an old guy, pretty face, young girl, she dazzled me, and, you know, I lost some money. Now, he can be kind of cavalier about it because he's still phenomenally wealthy. So it's a blow. As he said, it's an embarrassment, total embarrassment, but it is not something that wiped him out. There are some people who, you know, had a larger percentage of their assets just vaporized by virtue of what Elizabeth Holmes did to defraud investors. Now, I also think this is true with Elizabeth Holmes. Early Theranos investor Mark Ostrovsky, a venture capitalist, said he didn't think Ms. Holmes set out to commit fraud. He said Ms. Holmes set herself up for failure by attracting media attention and buying into her own hype. Quote, if she wasn't on those magazine covers, she'd probably still be raising money and building her company, unquote. This is according to Mr. Ostrovsky, who said his $200,000 Theranos investment 15 years ago peaked in share value at more than 20 million. Okay, so he was a golden boy for a minute there, but it was a house of cards. Now, let's briefly discuss the magazines, the media. You know, they called Miss Holmes the next Steve Jobs. They blew Sam Bankman Fried up as the next Warren Buffett or the next J.P. Morgan. So you got to be real careful when you're consuming this media and look beyond the hype, okay? You can't just take that magazine cover story, oh, she's the next Steve Jobs. Well, Steve Jobs did this, so hey, must be a good investment. Nah, you got to dig a lot deeper than that. And this is a big red flag here. Erica Chung, a former Theranos lab worker whose questions about the company's technology were answered with threats from its lawyers, said of the sentence, quote, "Hopefully it sends a signal that we need to start by taking more responsibility and more accountability in the tech industry because of the influence they have over people's lives," unquote. And this is another lesson that we can learn. If you're working for one of these companies, listen, if you're not in that C-suite, chances are when the FBI comes through the office, if you got anything to do with it, oh boy, you don't stand a chance. Okay, they got CEOs going to prison. All right. Now, usually what these federal authorities do is they try to look for, ways to climb the ladder and get to the big fish. So you might get a deal or something like that, but your life is ruined. All right. If they convict you, you got a federal conviction on your record. That's going to change your life forever. Try getting a job with that. Try getting, business funding with that. All right. So if you smell anything untoward and you're an employee of one of these companies, hey, do the right thing. It's always easier. And at the end of the day, you might lose out temporarily. They might come to you and say, "You're fired. You're out of here because you're not playing along with what we're doing here. It's something that's wrong." And so you could say, "Hey, all right, I'm out. Let me pack my stuff. Security, escort you out." And it might be, a blow for about, a day or so. But when you get home that night, you're going to sleep very well. And you know when you're going to sleep extremely well? When you're sitting there watching the news and they show, special report, all these FBI agents, people with, agent on the back of the, windbreaker jacket, going into that office and coming out with folk in handcuffs and boxes and computers. You're going to take such a deep and relaxing breath and say, doing the right thing paid off. All right, guys, learn more about what's going on here. Go watch the video I did on Kevin O'Leary. Again, I've kind of changed. Marion, one of our loyal viewers, has helped me look deeper into him and his philosophies around investing. And I've moderated my tone a bit. I do still have a question about whether, where his head was at when he was actually speaking with Sam Bankman Fried on the day that this whole thing came to light. I go into that in this video. Watch it. If you are following a mantra like Kevin O'Leary's that says 10% in any given investment, don't put all your eggs in one basket, that's prudent. Okay, so watch this video. Learn more about what's going on with that whole FTX scandal. And if you had FTX, or if you have, money in some other, crypto exchange, you're going to really need to do your due diligence to figure out how to safely work with that. I am not a fan of crypto, but at the same time, I don't want to see you lose a dime. I want to see you prosper. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.